Alright guys, what's up? So a few days ago, a YouTuber I occasionally watch released a interesting video that had some interesting opinions and ways of looking at things. So I thought I would make a response to it. So the video is called Metal Should Not Be a Community, posted by Black Metal Werewolf, and I thought I'd make this as a response since I do have some opinions about that. So yeah, let's check it out and let's see what he has to say.
And today what I would like to talk about is the metalhead community, and how I think this idea of a community among metalheads is something that needs to be rejected.
So that's kind of an odd thing to say that something as big and as influential as to world culture as metal shouldn't have a community. That's kind of a crazy take. Trying to think about how that would work is kind of hard to wrap your head around. Like, what is a fan of metal supposed to do if you encounter a fellow metalhead out in the wild? Do we just not bond over a shared interest? Let's see what he has to say about that.
Generally speaking, the concept of the metal community really doesn't sound that bad. You have a whole bunch of people communicating with each other, be it in person, online, or possibly a pen pal situation, and they're just discussing their love for metal, their favorite bands, their favorite albums, sharing things that they like, talking about things that they don't particularly like. Yes, in the land of milk and honey, this concept is a really good idea. However, over the past few years, I have noticed that the metal community seems to have been infiltrated by what I would consider to be insidious ideologies.
Alright, so here we go. This is either gonna turn out to be either super fucking based or super fucking cringe. Let's see what these so-called insidious ideologies are.
So I started noticing this pattern not too long ago when I saw that somebody who I follow on Instagram was posting in their stories about how they were being viciously bullied by other metalheads over TikTok.
Okay, so he goes on to tell a story about someone that he followed being bullied on TikTok of all places, and according to Mr. Werewolf here, this person received a ton of hate messages telling them to kill themselves and that they're a Nazi and that they're not a real metalhead, and all this allegedly came from the fact that this person just likes guns. That's it. This person dealt with all that just because they just like guns, and apparently they have some certain opinions on gun laws. And just from that alone, they're now a Nazi and they should stop listening to metal. And okay, look, it's not that I don't believe this story. I'm sure there's some shitty ass people out there harassing people for no goddamn reason. It's the internet, what are you gonna do about it, you know? But all that just because you like guns? I don't know. I personally just feel like there may be more to the story than that. Like, we're not quite getting the full picture here, if you know what I'm saying.
And so after I saw the horrible abuse that this poor person was going through, simply because they did not share the same ideologies that a bunch of 14-year-olds on TikTok had, I realized that this idea of this whole metalhead community isn't all peaches and cream.
Alright, so now, because some dumbass kids on the internet were rude to someone, this whole thing he talked about earlier, about a whole bunch of people with a shared interest, talking about their said shared interest, you know, the whole thing about people talking to each other about their favorite bands and songs and stuff they like and don't, you gotta stop it completely. Just cut that shit out immediately. All because some kids on the internet hurt your little feelings. Boo fucking who.
Now, I am 100% guilty of throwing around the term metalhead community countless times. I've talked about it in my videos, I've praised it. For the most part, I thought it was a good thing. But that one instance really made me want to take a closer look at it, and I realized that it's really not that good. Now, at first I thought maybe this was just a small isolated incident that this one person had with a bunch of mental defectives over TikTok.
And why the hell would it not be if that story really was the case? If it truly was nothing more than some dude just simply being open about their opinions on guns? Really? I like guns, right? But despite that, I think that there is a problem with them, but that's a whole topic to cover in a different video. But despite how I feel about certain people believing in certain things, I'm not gonna go to someone who I disagree with and tell them to kill themselves in your DMs, you know? Partly because I'm not fucking insane. Or well, mainly because I'm not fucking insane. People that do this, they don't really have anything better to do. There's something wrong with them up there. Or they're just immature or not smart enough to recognize that doing this doesn't actually help or make a change.
But the more I looked into it, the more I realized this was not an isolated incident. There are some seriously concerning ideologies that have seemed to have infiltrated the metal community and trying to push people out so that their ideologies reign supreme.
Alright, so now here's where the real meat of the video is, but unfortunately, spoiler alert, never fucking says what ideologies he's referring to. And this is a problem that grinds my gears the fucking most. It's when people say shit like, these ideologies and these thoughts or these viewpoints. Which fucking ones, motherfucker? Which ones? Man the fuck up, man. Don't be a bitch. Say it with your chest. Say what you really mean.
Now look, I'm not here to preach to you about right-wing, left-wing bullshit.
He then immediately proceeds to preach some right-wing, left-wing bullshit.
To me, heavy metal has always been about freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of speech.
Yeah, and historically, even more so recently, there has certainly been a group of people that's a little bit more against that than the others.
Look, if you want to be left-wing, right-wing, that is your choice. I believe that is up to you as an individual. But it seems like so many people are now taking their ideologies of religion, of politics, of social issues, and forcing it into heavy metal.
Bro, did you just start listening to metal yesterday? These things that he claims about religion and politics and shit being forced into metal have always been forced into metal from the very fucking beginning. What the fuck do you think Ozzy Osbourne is talking about in War Pigs? One by Metallica? What the hell do you think that song is even about? Fucking Rage Against the Machine? What do you think they're talking about? Most of Slayer's discography, dude? You ever hear of a little band called Behemoth? System of a Down, perhaps? How about Megadeth? You ever listen to a fucking Megadeth song in your life before? People's ideologies have been ingrained within metal since the very beginning. And why is that? Because metal is music, and music is art. And in many cases, art is just a reflection of society. You think Rage Against the Machine wrote Killing in the Name for fun or something? You think they were sitting around bored one day and one of them was all, hey, I got an idea for a song? Like, come on, man.
I'm well aware that there may be plenty of people who disagree with my viewpoints in this video.
Oh, hey, that's me.
I think what we need to acknowledge is that heavy metal has never been about, and never should be about, joining some Borg-like hive mind where we all stand around agreeing with each other and sucking each other's dicks. That's not what heavy metal is about. Like I said before, I always viewed it as a form of freedom. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of choice.
While I agree that not just metal but any form of art should be essentially basically about freedom of expression, freedom of speech, that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be freedom from consequence. If you want to have the freedom of pushing for something, then everybody else should have the freedom to push against that. If you want to make a song about how you hate a certain group of people because of the color of their skin, for example, then you should be totally free to do so. Go right ahead. But whatever consequences happen because of that, well, you don't really have anybody to blame but yourself.
But since I believe in freedom of choice and freedom of expression, I would like to get your guys' opinion on all of this. Do you agree with me or do you disagree with me? Is the metalhead community really a land of milk and honey that a lot of people naively think it is? Or do you think it has been infiltrated by a lot of really insidious ideologies?
Well, in my case, I actually do think that metal has been infiltrated by insidious ideologies. And this shit isn't recent either. When you got a whole fucking subgenre of music dedicated to upholding the ideas of white supremacy, then maybe it's not too crazy to say that there are some dangerous ideologies in metal. And that's far from the only issue. To this day, we got dudes and bands reinforcing negative ideas and opinions that do cause real world harm. Fuck transphobes, homophobes, and racists. You are not a real metalhead if you believe in any of this bigotry. If metal is truly about freedom, then standing for any of that is the opposite of freedom. While none of this shit matters online, when I go to a show, I don't want to be sharing a space with someone who, if things were their way, they would strip me or others of their freedoms, who would be indifferent or willingly participate in violence against certain groups.
And now, like my past videos, it is time for an album warning or recommendation.
Alright, and now we get to the main reason that I wanted to make this video, alright? So, if you've never watched this guy before, he likes to give recommendations or warnings about certain albums, and in this video he recommends the Live Your Life compilation album of a bunch of different bands covering Dio songs, right? And he ends up dropping what is quite possibly the worst opinion. Not even like an opinion, just like a straight up just false statement. I've never heard a more incorrect take in my life before.
Now, unfortunately, not every song on here is very good. For example, we have Killswitch Engage doing a cover of Holy Diver, and we have Corey Taylor singing Rainbow in the Dark. And those guys completely butchered those songs.
The Slipknot cover, you like it, you don't, it's fine, whatever, I guess. But to say that Killswitch Engage butchered Holy Diver is quite possibly the biggest hearsay I've ever been unfortunate enough to hear. That song goes so fucking hard. It is the most goated song on the whole album, bro. How could you possibly not like it? This guy is either the only person on the planet that doesn't like it, or he's doing a bit right now and I'm completely falling for it. Alright, but on some real shit though, those are my thoughts on this whole metal community video thing, and I guess like the idea of a metal community and all that, and how I feel about it. But how do you guys feel about it? Let me know or whatever, and yeah.